We're starting a new series tonight called the Iceberg Theory, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a couple of minutes. I wanted to start off by doing partial reading from the language of letting go from today's. Using others to stop our pain. Our happiness is not present. It is not a present someone else holds in his or her hands. In those moments when we are trying to reach out and force someone to stop our pain and create our joy, we can find the courage to stop flailing about and instead stand still and deal with our issues. We'll find our true happiness. Healing will come when we're aware of how we attempt to use others to stop our pain and create our happiness. We will heal from the past, receive insights that can change the course of our relationships. We said all along our happiness and our well-being have been in our hands. We have held that box. The contents are ours for the opening. God, help me remember that I hold the key to my own happiness. Give me the courage to stand still and deal with my own feelings. Give me the insights I need to improve my relationships. Help me stop doing the codependent dance and start doing the dance of recovery. I just wanted to read those pieces tonight because I want to kind of do an overview today, what I refer to as the Iceberg Theory, to where I got this and what it's really all about. I picked up this concept in this thing called the illusion of control, based on the Iceberg Theory, from one of my 12-step programs I was in for a period of time called Anorexics and Bulimics Anonymous. I put this theory together based on the concept of this philosophy called the illusion of control and the illusion of fear, and trying to teach us the importance of getting in touch with the whole concept of ourself as an individual. If you want to see the whole entire page, the whole entire chapter on the illusion of control and the Iceberg Theory, we have downloaded it in our website under Vince's Corner, down to the bottom where it says additional resources, and you'll see the Iceberg Theory. You can click on and make a copy of the entire chapter. What I want to bring out tonight, though, is something that's really important to understand. I look at my own life and I realize this, and that's why I like talking about the Iceberg Theory, because it really is the theory that helped me to go through a transition and a change in my own life. I realize now that in my life, I've lived two different lives. The first half of my life, from birth up to about age 44, I lived in what I call the world of external. I never dealt with the real internal, the real sense of who I am, or a real sense of my own spirituality until the second stage of my life. I want to talk about that tonight because when we talk about the Iceberg Theory, it's the fact that so many of us, instead of really living our lives, we literally survive them. And too many people have a tendency to spend their whole entire life just being survivors. We have to learn how to be thrivers, not survivors. I understand now when it talks about that, we truly are able to slowly but surely defrost the iceberg to get in touch with the core and the center. We're really dealing with our codependency issues. The Iceberg Theory finally got me to totally click in my mind the concepts of codependency and why it's the root of all addiction. Addiction is only a cover. It's a way in which we cover up getting in touch with the inside of us, the internal, our feelings, who we really are as people. Unfortunately, for so many of us, for a long period of time, we lived in that external world. We performed, we got things done, people looked at us, we lived up to people's expectations. Everything was about basically making sure you understand my image, to see the outside of me. Who really are we? I have to look at the inside. See, I think sometimes in life, so many of us got buried in the iceberg because we're afraid or we're scared to basically deal with our feelings, to deal with the inside, because we have a tendency then to feel that awful feeling of losing control. I think all of us as human beings get caught up in the illusion of control. And so as we have very many different ways in which we actually run away, we hide, we run from dealing with, and that's why they tell us in recovery, we are as sick as our secrets. And secrets are things that are buried inside of so many of us, but the scary part about it is we don't even know they're there. I realize now that first half of my life, I was living an image, an external life on the outside. I never took time to truly look at myself on the inside. And so as a result, basically, I always thought that was it. I thought that's what life was supposed to be. Performance. To be able to get things done. I mean, during that period of my life, I ran a parish, I taught school, I ran programs, I ref basketball, I did workshops, I did all kinds of stuff. I was like I don't know what I was. But really, in reality, I really had no real sense of who am I? What am I really all about? Is that what I am? Am I someone who simply functions? Am I someone who simply produces stuff and gets things done? Or can I stand still, look within my own self, and begin to experience, referred to as the spiritual awakening? I know sometimes it's scary, because it means that we can't live up to everybody else's expectations. We have to go on our own journey. You know, my therapist said this to me so many times, because I used to spend a lot of craziness in my isolation, in my world, because I was afraid that people would find out who I really am. And that's a scary thing, because literally when you're constantly functioning and performing, you're afraid to make a mistake. You're afraid that something will go wrong. And as a result, then literally, you live in tension, you live in anxiety, and you live in control. But the biggest thing is you also live in fear. And so we have to be able to break these two bonds. And that means defrosting the iceberg. You'll see when you look at that and download the iceberg theory, you'll see the diagram of the iceberg. And you'll see all the issues and stuff that are on the inside, because the core of the iceberg is usually shame, negative image of self, not a good sense of who I am, guilt, fear, all kinds of stuff that basically we've buried for a long period of time. We do it in different ways. That's where the codependency thing comes into play and why it's connected to addiction. You'll also see on the outside of the iceberg are all the different addictions. What really is an addiction? Whether it be drugs, alcohol, sex, food, gambling, whether it be work, no matter what it is, it's an illusion. It simply means I can't handle the real sense of life, so I have to use something to keep me from feeling, to keep me from pain, to keep me in my own little world, to avoid having to go to the core, to the center, what it's really all about. Another word for the iceberg theory is peeling the onion. To go to the core, to go to the center. And so there are many ways in which we survive. One of the ways, and we can do all three of these ways, you heard me talk about them before. One of the ways is to avoid, to live in isolation, to live in hiding, and truly let no one really get to know who you really are. And that's ironical, because if you don't really want anybody to know who you really are, it means you don't really know who you really are. And so really, in reality, so many of us live in that world of isolation. We sit in a little cocoon where we feel safe, we feel comfortable, we stay within those walls. And as a result, then, literally, I can't come outside those walls because I'm scared. So I'm living in fear. I'm living in control. I'm avoiding. And once you get into that, basically it becomes normal to you. The other area is fantasy. Denial. To live in a fantasy world where I don't want to deal with anything. Everything's wonderful. Everything's great. I have no problems. I can constantly push everything away, push stuff to the side, not have to feel, not to deal. And as a result, what do I do then? I'm literally, people come up to me and say, how are you? I'm fine. I had a perfect childhood. Everything's wonderful. Everything's great. Never made a mistake in my whole entire life. Always had my act all together. We're constantly denying. What am I doing? I'm fending off. I'm just trying to drive people away from me. Again, I don't want them to really see me and see the real me and see the inside of me and see my vulnerability, to see the core of what's going on inside of me. Why? Because I don't want to see it. So as a result, what do I do many times? I can always play the blame game. I can literally say things like, if only they would change, then I would be okay. If only the institution would change. That wonderful blame game. God, I played it for such a long period of time. I played it back in the times when I was going to fix the whole world and save the whole world. But see, that's a great avoidance. In doing that, I can blame somebody else and want them to change, not me. And as a result, I'm scared to look in the mirror. I'm scared to get in touch with feelings, and I'm scared to come alive. It's unfortunate because so many times, because of that illusion of control, because of our secrets, and because of the stuff we have buried inside of us, many of us burn through relationships. We burn through things in life. We never understand really why we are where we are. There's that empty feeling on the inside. And the crazy part about it is, half the time we don't even know we're doing it. I look back on my own life as a kid. I got programmed into doing whatever somebody else wanted me to do. Then it became my way of life. Then it became comfortable. And as a result, then literally, I just kind of fell right into the pattern. 32 years between seminary and priesthood, I had it pretty good. I got 2 master's degrees and paid nothing for college, nothing for my master's program. Everyone did everything for me, paid things for me, took care of things. I even had a housekeeper who washed my clothes, made my bed every day, cooked for me, oh my God. Talk about, organized welfare. And literally it's because I became like a little kid, living in a little cocoon, living in my world, in my little world of isolation. Basically, living in a world of denial, a world of fantasy. I don't have to be responsible. I don't have to grow up. And don't take this away from me. Take it to a lot of situations in life. I see a lot of times I get phone calls from people that will say, I don't know what to do with my son. How old is your son? 53. He's been living with me his whole life. He doesn't go to work. He eats our food. He does this. He does that. Everything else. I don't know what to do with him. Well, really, in reality, what I'm really saying is I literally like him, but I can blame him and be angry at him because I don't have the guts to be able to deal with the sense of responsibility. So as a result, I became addicted to him. It's like being an indirect spouse. It's crazy, some of the stuff that we do. And so as a result of all that, literally, we also get into caretaking. And by the way, it's a lot of fun. See, I can always take care of somebody else. I can always constantly spend my life taking care of others because I literally find fault with them. But there's rules I have when I'm in isolation, when I'm in fantasy, when I'm caretaking. Don't you dare get better. I need you to stay where you are. I need you to let me live. Let me be the hero. Let me keep working on trying to fix you. I can get angry at you and get frustrated with you. We get caught up in this so many times. Many of us in our jobs, what do? They give us an identity. Then we get frustrated, we get resentful, we get angry at them. Because literally, it's not who we are. And I know it's the scariest thing in the world to begin to ask that question. Who am I? What am I all about? Where am I going on my journey in life? To be able to realize, to break down that iceberg. But as long as all that stuff is buried inside of you, it's very difficult to move forward. Because being frozen means that internally you're dead while you're alive externally. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't really want to be a survivor. I want to be able to live life. That means dealing with my secrets, learning how to open up doors, to move in new directions. I shared this with some of you before in another series that I did. I always talk about what I refer to as the concept of what life really is all about. And I use a symbol of a cross. The cross is a symbol of struggle. Struggle is part of life. What do? Many times we try to avoid struggle. I don't want to feel pain. So literally, I want to run away from it. I want to always be okay all the time. And we know that's not reality. The hardest thing for us is to be able to face reality, to be able to face change, open up new doors and new directions. But there's a problem. See, if I'm an isolator and I'm going to deal with change, that means I have to come out. I have to learn to get honest. I have to have a sense of humility and become vulnerable. It means that I have to be able to trust and be open. But I got to be careful because we have a tendency sometimes to over disclose. So I need people in my life I can share stuff with, people I can trust. That's not a ton of people. You know, sometimes codependents get a little bit too crazy. You know, you're walking down the street, your neighbor says, "Hi, how are you?" And you do a fifth step with him. You just scared the man to death. You wonder why he's moving the next day. You get away from you. I look back at my own life in the priesthood and some of this crazy stuff that I did. I used to tell everybody, call me any time of the day, any time of the night, no problem at all. I'll always be there for you. See how sick that is? We had no cell phones back then, by the way, Jenna. We had no cell phones. So the priest that lived with me got all the phone calls because I was never home. He actually asked for a transfer to get away from me. I made his life crazy and insane because I was living this big external thing on the outside. And I was telling him, you know, I ran the campaign against gambling. I was on 60 Minutes. I did all kinds of crazy stuff. I rode around in a car with Mike Wallace being interviewed, you know, because nobody else would do it. So I figured, what the hell, I'll do it. But see, when you get caught up in that world, it's like the world of fighting and battling is the world of constantly going after somebody else, going after this, going after an institution in that direction. It's almost like I'm running, I'm hiding, I'm avoiding because I'm scared. I never thought about this in my life because when I was doing all this stuff and involved in it, to me, it was normal. That's what I thought I was supposed to be doing. You know, it's interesting, as a result of two addictions, even a nervous breakdown, time in a psychiatric hospital, and guess what? I didn't listen to them either. So many people were telling me, you have to work on you, and I told them I didn't need any work because I was perfect. I didn't need work at all. I had it all together. I don't think you knew that. I had it all together. But the bottom line is, I didn't. I was a total disaster and a total mess. Even with $60,000 in debt, my life was chaotic. It was insane. It was crazy because I was scared. I was afraid to make decisions. I was scared of responsibility, scared of a lot of things. And so many of us live this way. I just want to be able to feel safe in my little cocoon. I'm afraid to take risks, to move forward, to make decisions, be able to move in a new direction. I remember one time when I was working at Northwestern Institute in the psychiatric hospital, and we had this lady that came in all the time. She was a regular patient. And she was so angry, so angry. And oh, she used to always say, I will never, ever, ever stop being angry until my mother admits what she did to me. They bring the mother in for the session and everything else. The mother didn't know what she was talking about. Because what she couldn't accept is everything functions on perception. Like my mother overprotected me. I felt smothered. My mother called it love. She's coming from where she is. I was coming from where I am. And all of us are that way in the course of our journey in life. So it's easy to say, if only I had a better childhood, then my life would be different. No. We are the architects of our life. But until we actually have the courage and the strength to be able to get in touch with our secrets, get in touch with the internal. And I'm not saying to do this tonight, please. Codependents, they try this every once in a while. Please don't do it tonight. It's a process. It's learning. See, honesty is something you have to learn. You have to learn a little bit at a time to trust, to be honest, open up. I know the first time ever, my therapist asked me to deal with some of my abuse issues as a child. I fundamentally, first of all, denied the fact that I had abuse issues. I denied it because I don't want to deal with it. It took him a long time to get me to finally break that veil and finally get me to have to face it and deal with it and talk to him about it. And then he said to me, I want you to try to share this with somebody else. You know how scary that was? Open yourself up to another person. As I began to do that, after a while, now I have the openness to be able to share it with a lot of people because it's no longer my secret. And many things that go on inside, I'm not saying you got to share this with everybody, but you learn to connect with people, to be around people. I'm grateful today for the 4 great sponsors I've had over my recovery journey and being able to do 4th steps with them and 5th steps and be able to work through the steps with them to finally move into the second half of my life and be able to face some of the things. I still probably have a lot more I have to face. It's not easy. Life is supposed to be an opening up, a development, to be able to experience it. And even as a result of it, you're able to have a sense of humor, which means I can laugh at the past because it really was insane. My wife even said to me when I wrote my book on my spiritual journey, story of most of my life, my wife even said to me, if I had known you back then, you would have scared the hell out of me. I wouldn't come near you. It's interesting. See, again, you look at the different phases of our life and where we go in different directions. And I realize now, it's like we have to go through a process of change, but here's the danger point. Once you live in that world of isolation, fantasy, caretaking, you're in that world, then everybody expects you to always be there. As soon as you start making changes, you set boundaries, you begin to move in a different direction, then people get upset at you, they get angry at you. I never forget, to give you an idea, I'm going back now to the 40s and early 50s, living in Camden. And in South Camden, I lived in the Italian community. And back then we had very close-knit isolation. Italians hung with Italians. Irish hung with Irish. Everybody hung with whoever they were. We didn't even know who we were. We just were basically, everything was based on the identity that we had. My cousin was the first person to violate the Italian rule. He had the audacity to date and then marry an Irish girl. Isn't that horrible? When he did that, his mother actually said to him, if you marry her, my son's dead. And for 1 year, my aunt wore black, mourning the death of her son. He didn't die, he just got married. But he violated the rules because these are the expectations. You got to stay within the cocoon. You got to stay in this direction. Back in the 50s, God forbid you had, same-sex marriage or you had, mixed marriages and stuff to that effect. The world would come. But again, we get caught up in all this stuff. It's all about safety. It's all about fear. It's all about, I got to keep everything under control and keep it in my little world. I don't want to go through change. I'm scared of change. Yet change what life really is all about. As you're more learning about yourself, you set more boundaries. There's things you can do, things you can't do. There's decisions you have to make. Now, people are going to get upset at some of those decisions, but you have to make them. Even when we go through periods of life where we have a sickness or a disease, I'm going through it right now. I had to make some changes in my life. I had to cancel some of the things I was scheduled to do. Now, I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy about that, but they'll survive. They'll get through it. Because again, it's what it is, what it is. I have to stay home with my little buddy here, keep me walking, keep myself together here. So the concept is, I realize more and more now, it's hard sometimes to make decisions. It's hard to make changes. People always say to me, why don't we go back the way it was? Why don't we go back to this and go back to that? I had a guy talk to me the other day. He asked me about the history of Starting Point, when originally Starting Point was a halfway house for street people, and we had 4 houses in South Philadelphia for street people. And he said to me, that's great, Vince. Why don't you do that again? And I said to him, honestly, I can't do it again. I did that back when I was 35, 36, 37 years old. I don't have that kind of energy anymore. I can't go back. And we all know we can't go back. So I can learn from the past. I can embrace it. I can learn from it. It's part of my history. It's part of who I am. Let me learn lessons from it. I have to live in the present and live in reality. But reality always teaches me I also have to learn how to make adjustments. Life is a constant process of adjustments. You have to adjust to a lot of things in life. And that goes for relationships and everything else. Nothing stays the same. Come on, get real. Everything we go through goes through a change process. Hopefully we'll do some growing, some learning, but sometimes we got to do it a little bit at a time. My father used to say to me all the time, bien, take your time, go slow. When you go slow, you're learning. My sponsor said it to me, Richard. He used to say, if you learn that much today, that much, you made progress. That's enough. Progress, not perfection. All those beautiful sayings and things we have in recovery, when you start to live them, you begin to realize life is a mixture of so many beautiful things. We have to learn not to try to do everything at once, not to try to fix everything. And we have to be able to be open, be vulnerable. Even sometimes I look back on my life, I can't believe some of the things I did. And actually, if I actually went through them all with you tonight, it'd be a good comedy show. I can't believe I survived it. And yet, why did I survive it? Because everything that happened because it was supposed to happen. So we could eventually go through a growing process, a learning process. Nothing happens by accident. People come into your life. Some people stay, some leave. We go through different phases of life. And sometimes we can't even let go. Scary. There's a good friend of mine, and I feel bad. It's like when his wife was pretty sick. She had all kinds of heart problems and diabetes and everything. And they're in the hospital, and literally, he had to make a major decision. They told him that if she doesn't have a particular operation, there's a 50-50 chance that she'll make it through it. Other than that, it's only a matter of time till she dies. So he approved the operation. She died on the operating table. He went through so much guilt, so much anxiety, that for the next 23 years of his life, he lived in a house. He had a photograph of her, the urn next to it, and basically all he did all day was apologize and apologize. And you're such a good person. Why did I do this to you? Beating himself up, isolating in a little of guilt and fear and all kinds of stuff. He lived there. His daughter would come over and say to him, what are you doing, Dad? He said, oh, because my wife was an angel. She was this, she was that. Why did I do this to her? And the daughter used to say, she was no angel. None of us are angels. We're just human beings. It was a human decision. But logic didn't work because he was trapped. He was stuck right till the day he died. And it's a sad thing because it means that's almost like when her life came to an end, his life came to an end. And we see this happen a lot of times in life. And so the concept is, I want to be able to live, to celebrate, to enjoy. And sometimes we got to go through obstacles. We got to go through pain. We got to go through it physically. We got to go through it emotionally. We got to go through it spiritually. Change is part of this whole process we're going through. And believe me or not, it's exciting. It's a little tense every once in a while. You got to go through changes every once in a while. You got to be able to feel the pain. I was talking to my doctor today on the phone, right at one of those televisits, whatever you call it. And I said to him, with this back thing I'm going through right now, I can't wait till I can sleep in the bed again. I'm sick of a recliner. I'm not getting the proper rest. But I've got to go through what I got to go through to get to the next stage, to get to where I've got to go. Then the impatience comes in. I'm supposed to get some kind of a needle or something to alleviate this, but I have to wait for all these approvals. I have to wait certain times when they're going to be able to do it. And I said today to my wife, maybe God's trying to tell me, practice patience and tolerance. There's a purpose behind it all. I want to scream at the doctor and say, come on, give me the damn needle. It doesn't work that way. We have patience, tolerance. We have to work through things in different directions. We had a blimp tonight. I couldn't get on. Carol and Loretta couldn't get on. We had to go off, go on, go off, go on. And then all of a sudden I couldn't start my video. I couldn't unmute. I couldn't do anything. And what did I do? I did something I finally learned how to do. I opened the door and I yelled at my wife. I said, help. She came running in. She moved some things around, boom, 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 and all of a sudden it worked. It's crazy. And yet that's life, isn't it? Isn't that how life is? Sometimes you got to say those words. You have to say, help me, because I don't know what I'm doing. We have to get directions. We have to find out what happens. How many of us in this room, I know I've done it, put something together, decide I don't need to read the directions. I can handle it. Then at the end, I say, how come I got all these extra parts? Maybe there's a game to us to be extras. I look at the thing I just did. I said, oh boy, they're not extra parts. They're parts that are missing. And yet we do it to ourselves all the time. It's our humanity. It's wonderful to be human. It's wonderful that we make mistakes. It's wonderful to go through struggle. It's part of what it's really all about. We have to learn that when we get into the iceberg theory next week and the behavior characteristics, you're going to see where the core, the center of the iceberg is shame. The core in the center is that I literally have a negative image of myself as a person. And I'm beating myself up and I'm hard on myself because I have this illusion of control. And I have this illusion that I can handle, I can do everything. I stop it. You can't. We have to be able to open those doors and see them in different directions. So I want to go into the core of the iceberg. Now, you have to learn something about an iceberg. Remember, you have to thaw it out a little bit at a time. I know codependence will want to take an ice pick and straighten it out right away. It doesn't work that way. Okay, Pat, remember that. So the concept is we have to do it slow. It's got to melt. It's a process. Learning is a process. And how long will it take? Probably till about 10 years after you're dead. Don't worry about it. It's not important how long it will take. If you learn that much about yourself every day, grow that much today, experience something new, that's the adventure of life. It's called change. It's called being open. It's called being vulnerable and realizing I have to learn to listen. Do I have to agree with everything? No. Do I have to listen to everything? Yes. Can I learn from things around me? Yes. To try to learn, or do I have to have the absolutes all the time and have that control all the time? And that's why I love the iceberg theory, because as we go through this series, that illusion of control will destroy your life. I'm convinced that control and fear are the danger points. They rule our life. Because we compare ourselves, we get caught up, we're so hard on ourselves. Ease up a little bit. Whoever we are, we're supposed to be, whoever we are. Congratulations. Wherever we are in our journey today is where we're supposed to be. I've often said two more spiritual words, supposed to. Supposed to. Why did I go through what I went through? Because you were supposed to. Well, what did I learn? How did I grow from it? Was it painful? Yes. I would go through losses. I go through the loss of people in my life. This coming Friday, I have to do a funeral for one of my cousins. We're getting whoop, 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 just going down, and I'm now the patriarch, and soon I'll be the only arch. But the bottom line is, we begin to experience loss. I used to have 16 cousins. They were my brothers and sisters, so I'm an only child. And now there's only two of us left. You know, we say goodbye to another one. But again, that's how life is you have to say goodbye and then say hello in a new direction. It's all part of it. I told you this so many times. Life is this beautiful adventure. We all got a round trip ticket. Congratulations. That means that someday the second half will get punched. We're going to go through stages. The Indians say it all the time. We go through birth, we go through child, we go through teenage years, we go through young adult, we go through middle age, we go through old age, and then we leave so the cycle can start all over again with somebody new. It's a process. That's what it's really all about. It's beautiful, scary, and yet at the same time, it's what it's really all about. And most of us will live a couple of different lives. Some of us even live 3 and 4 lives. That's okay. Whatever you have to do. It's all part of it. The most important thing is to try to be open to change and open to growth. And so we'll continue the series, and I'm going to spend a couple of weeks just on dealing with the behaviors inside the iceberg and how to be able to look at them and realize the process we have to go to begin to deal with them. So I do recommend, if you get an opportunity, to download the photograph of the iceberg. Maybe I'll talk to Loretta. We can actually put it up at the beginning of the lecture next week, so you get a real good view of it. Check in that direction. So I want to share a prayer tonight, a prayer of openness, a prayer of humility, a prayer of growth. Let us pray. God, we come before you as your family. We ask the God of our understanding, our higher power, our divine presence, to guide us, to strengthen us, and teach us the gift of faith. Teach us the gift of acceptance. Help us to accept the journey that we're on, to accept the reality of our life. Help us to be able to adjust, to move in new directions, to learn, to grow, to experience. Teach us to know that somehow we have to go through struggle. We got to go through pain to be able to experience growth. We know that you'll be with us, you'll guide us. You send those teachers into our life. Some of them I like and some I don't like. And the ones I don't like, eventually I'll learn to like. Because you are a God, a beautiful person that gives us the gift of love. And because of your love, you're constantly in the process of trying to teach us to be able to look in that mirror and realize the great creation that we are. So in gratitude and love, we come together tonight. We hope and we pray that you'll help us on our journey as we're able to release our secrets, open up our hearts, and begin the process and continue the process of growing and learning through the energy and the power of love. We pray tonight and we ask that you guide us and be with us in all that we do. We pray this in your name. Amen.